There's an interview on Boxing Scene with Joe Gallagher, the trainer of Callum Smith. And Joe Gallagher is basically saying that although Callum Smith has the WBA super middleweight title, I know that's silly, but that's what it's called. And he has that title, he's won the World Boxing Super Series, but he doesn't see any big fights at super middleweight on the horizon. You know, Canelo, will he stay at middleweight? Probably. Who else is there really at middleweight? You know, you've the winner of the Eubank Jr. De Gale. Yeah, really, if the Gale wins, would he fight Callum Smith? I doubt it. Eubank Jr., Callum Smith, there'd be a lot of issues, I think, with Eddie Hearn as well, maybe, with that. Maybe he's still salty with the Eubanks. Maybe he wouldn't want to work with them again. So, that's kind of, up in the air. But he's also toyed with the idea of Callum Smith moving up to 175 and challenging Sergey Kovalev in the wake of Sergey Kovalev's comprehensive victory over Lady Alvarez there over the weekend. Now, that would be interesting. I've always felt that Callum Smith is pretty much destined for light heavyweight. I've kind of felt that for the last couple of years now. So I'm surprised he's still making the weight at 168 because, he is a very, very big man. Was 6'3", and he looked big in there. Again, he looked big next to George Groves. George Groves wasn't a small super middleweight either. So, Callum Smith moving up to light heavyweight, I entertained that idea. And I wouldn't mind seeing him versus Sergey Kovalev. He's 6'3". I can imagine he'd probably have the longer reach on Sergey Kovalev. So it would be a different kind of test for Sergey Kovalev. He wouldn't be able to outbox him the way that he was able to outbox Lady Alvarez there over the weekend. And, the one thing about Callum Smith, and I noticed it in the George Groves fight, was how easy he is to hit with the jab and how slow he is when an opponent does come in on him. Now, if Callum Smith moves up in weight, especially in a division like light heavyweight, where they're all sharks in that weight division, you've got Dimitri Bivol. He beat Callum Smith in the amateurs. He's been talking about moving down in weight to challenge Callum Smith, which Joe Gallagher hasn't mentioned in this article. You've got Bertaviev and Vodcek. So they're all tough, but Callum Smith, if he was to move up, this is assuming he does, I'd give him a decent chance over most of them guys. I think Bivol, no. I think Bivol would be probably a bit too quick, a bit too skilled. But Beterbiev, he has looked vulnerable. I would always say that if you ask me who I would say, in my opinion, who I would say the top dog at 175 is, I would always kind of say Beterbiev. I've been the most impressed with him, but, he's not without his flaws. And, you've got Vodcek. But, no, I think, from what I can gather in the interview with Joe Gallagher, they are seriously considering Sergey Kovalev as an option moving forward. That'd be an interesting fight, I really do, because, Kovalev, has he ever really fought a true puncher? I know Callum Smith is not, a crazy puncher, crazy heavy puncher, but he can punch, and, he can punch at super middle. I'm sure he'll be able to punch light heavy. He'll be able to hurt Sergey Kovalev, I'm sure of that. So that'd be interesting. That would kind of add to the intrigue. But how's Callum Smith's chin? George Groves never really caught him. He's never really been caught flush in his career, Callum Smith. If he took some of them Sergey Kovalev right hands on the chins, if Sergey Kovalev didn't decide to box, if he went full-blown crusher and decided to, crush Callum Smith, would Callum Smith be able to handle it? Yeah, it'd be an intriguing fight. I think out of all the fights, if Callum Smith was to move up, that'd be the one that I'd really kind of, be most interested in, because it'd be just the unknown. Like, I think as good as Sergey Kovalev was the weekend, and he was fantastic, you just never really know what you're going to get. Like, I was picking Lady Alvarez to win that fight because I thought Sergey Kovalev just wouldn't learn from the first one, but he obviously proved me wrong. So, no, that'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see what Callum Smith does next. There is talk of him fighting in May, and it could possibly be in the States. I've heard that mentioned on an Alexander Usyk undercard, if Usyk fights in the States. So, we'll wait and see how that goes. But that's my thoughts on this. Leave yours below and let me know if you think, how would you see Callum Smith doing against Sergey Kovalev? Would you give him a chance, or would the crusher just crush him? So leave your thoughts down below, and as always, I will talk to you after.